Prophecy is not merely a prediction of future events. It is a mirror held up to the soul. It is not intended to satisfy our curiosity about the future, but to guide us toward readiness. When we read the words of the prophets, such as Ezekiel, we must resist the temptation to treat them like a newspaper forecast. Instead, we should treat them like a call to inner transformation. When Ezekiel spoke of war, he was not just referring to nations in conflict, but to a time when humanity would be shaken awake. These words were not just warnings about geographic boundaries or political alliances. They were signals for the people of God to prepare their hearts, align their lives, and examine their priorities. Many look at prophecy as a code to crack or a riddle to decode, but the wise do not study prophecy to impress others with timelines. The wise absorb prophecy so they can live with purpose, with urgency, with peace even when the storm comes. The purpose of prophecy is not to make us experts in chronology, but to make us alert in character. If all we do is calculate dates and connect headlines, we may miss the deeper call to repentance, to faithfulness, to courage. Ezekiel's prophecy is not about watching the sky for signs, but watching our hearts for compromise. It is not about figuring out when war will break out in the Middle East. It is about asking if peace has taken root within us. Are we living in obedience? Are we walking in integrity? Are we ready to endure, to stand, to speak truth with love when the world grows darker? When we treat prophecy as preparation, we begin to live differently. We speak with more weight. We love with more urgency. We forgive with more sincerity. We no longer wait for crisis to awaken us. We live as if every day is a gift to be invested. In times of peace, we train. In times of uncertainty, we trust. In times of turmoil, we stand. When you know something is coming, you don't panic. You prepare. Soldiers don't fear the sound of battle when they've trained their minds and strengthened their bodies. Likewise, people of faith don't tremble at headlines when their hearts have been shaped by the Word. The prophecy of Ezekiel is not given so that we live in fear of war, but so that we live in the awareness of purpose. Every generation is tested. Every soul will face its own moment of reckoning. When we study Ezekiel's vision, we are not reading an ancient drama. We are being invited into spiritual alignment. The names of the nations may change, but the heart of humanity does not. Pride still rules leaders, greed still fuels systems, violence still seduces the strong, but those who are awake, those who understand that prophecy is preparation, will rise above panic. They will carry a stillness within, even as the earth shakes. They will carry wisdom, not anxiety, clarity, not confusion, hope, not despair. Many will be surprised when prophetic events unfold, not because they weren't told, but because they weren't trained to listen with their hearts. Head knowledge is not enough. Emotional reactions are not enough. Spiritual readiness is cultivated in silence, in humility, in obedience. This is why Ezekiel was not just a prophet with visions. He was a man of deep conviction. He didn't only speak of war, he lived through exile. He didn't only see the future, he wrestled with the pain of the present, and through it all, he remained faithful to his call. Prophecy teaches us that God is never taken by surprise. His plan is unfolding, not unraveling. The question is not whether the world is out of control. The question is whether we are under God's control. Are we surrendered? Are we focused? Are we disciplined in our walk, or distracted by noise? Are we awake to the season we're in, or are we lulled by comfort and convenience? The Word of God is not given so we can win arguments or gain attention. It is given so we can walk in alignment with truth, so we can shine as lights in a world that grows darker by the day. If Ezekiel's words are coming to pass, it means we are living in a sacred moment, a time not for fear, but for focus, a time not for hiding, but for rising. We must prepare not just our supplies, but our spirits. Not just our homes, but our hearts. Not just our knowledge, but our character. The person who is prepared in heart will not be shaken by external crisis, because they are anchored in something deeper, rooted in something eternal. They are not blown around by the opinions of others or the panic of the crowd. They are like trees planted by living water. When drought comes, they still bear fruit. When winds rise, they still stand firm. This is what it means to treat prophecy as preparation. It means living with vision, not fear. It means making every day count. It means using our time wisely, loving our families deeply, serving others selflessly, and staying alert to the whispers of the Spirit. It means guarding our thoughts, examining our motives, and sharpening our discernment. It means refusing to be asleep while the world burns. It means walking in truth even when truth is unpopular. It means praying like never before, fasting like never before, loving like never before. It means stepping out of apathy and into purpose. Let the prophecy of Ezekiel not make us spectators, but soldiers, not analysts, but ambassadors. Let us not be entertained by the drama of world events, but transformed by the urgency of our calling. If war is at the doorstep, then peace must be within our hearts. If nations are aligning for conflict, then we must align ourselves with God's will. If history is reaching a climax, then our response must not be delay, but devotion. Prophecy is not about watching events unfold. It is about becoming the kind of person who can endure, who can lead, who can love when the world loses its way. So let the words of Ezekiel stir your soul, not into fear, but into faith, not into debate, but into devotion, not into stress, but into stillness. Let it push you to prepare, not just externally, but internally. This is your moment. The headlines may shake the world, but your heart can remain unshaken. The prophecy may unfold, but your purpose remains unchanged. You are not here by accident. You were born for this time. Live ready, stay awake, be prepared, because prophecy is not prediction. It is preparation. Outer conflict often grabs our attention. The noise of war, the threat of nations, the turmoil in politics. It dominates headlines, stirs emotions, and creates fear. But what we must understand is that external conflict is only a reflection of something deeper. The battles we see on the outside are often the results of battles that have been lost on the inside. Before a war is ever fought with weapons, it is first fought in the realm of pride, ego, bitterness, and greed. Nations clash because hearts are hardened. Leaders fight because their spirits are divided. Conflict in the world is born from conflict within. If there is no peace in the soul, there will never be peace in society. That is why spiritual wisdom always begins by looking inward. Before asking, "Why is this happening out there?" we must ask, "What is happening in me?" This principle applies on every level. A person who is constantly at odds with others often carries unresolved anger. A community that divides and collapses often suffers from lack of compassion. A nation that crumbles morally does so because its people have lost their moral compass. Ezekiel's prophecy was not just about armies gathering and alliances forming. It was a divine revelation that something was broken deep within the heart of man. He was calling people not just to observe events, but to examine themselves. The war he saw coming was not just about geography, it was about the spiritual decay that had spread like a disease. Before the sword strikes the ground, the soul has already surrendered to darkness. Before there is chaos in cities, there is confusion in hearts. When we understand that outer conflict reflects inner disorder, we stop pointing fingers and start taking responsibility. It becomes no longer about what they are doing, but what I must change. We begin to ask, have I allowed division in my own relationships? Have I fed the fires of fear with my own words? Am I walking in peace or contributing to the noise? The truth is, the most dangerous wars are not the ones fought with bombs and missiles. They are the ones fought in silence, in secret, in the unseen chambers of the soul. The war between truth and deception, between humility and pride, between light and darkness. When we ignore these battles, we become vulnerable. When we face them, we become whole. Ezekiel was not merely trying to warn his people of an approaching enemy. He was trying to awaken them to a higher awareness that spiritual neglect always leads to national collapse, that ignoring the condition of your heart can result in the fall of your house, that compromise in values eventually leads to consequences in society. If we want to see peace in the world, we must first restore peace in our hearts. This peace does not come from comfort or wealth or distraction. It comes from alignment with truth. It comes from surrendering pride, forgiving others, and walking in obedience. Every time we see conflict erupting in the world, it is an invitation to search our souls. Are we living out of reaction or reflection? Are we led by fear or by faith? Are we building bridges or burning them? Are we part of the solution or part of the confusion? It is easy to criticize leaders or governments. It is much harder to discipline the inner life, but true transformation always starts there. A man who conquers himself is more powerful than one who conquers a city. A woman who walks in quiet strength brings more peace than 1,000 speeches. The world does not just need more plans, it needs more people who are whole within. When we observe the unfolding events that mirror the words of Ezekiel, we must resist the urge to simply panic or blame. Instead, we must quiet ourselves. We must reflect on the condition of our own hearts. Are we living as people of light? Are we cultivating peace in our homes? Are we choosing mercy over judgment, prayer over gossip, truth over convenience? The external battles will always rage, but those who are grounded internally will not be moved. They will shine as anchors in a storm-tossed world. Disorder begins when we lose sight of the sacred, when we prioritize self over service, pleasure over purpose, pride over humility. These small internal choices build up over time until they erupt in larger consequences. It's not always immediate. Sometimes years pass, but what is not resolved inside eventually reveals itself outside. This is why Jesus often withdrew to pray, why prophets lived in solitude, why great leaders first spent time in stillness before speaking to crowds, because without inner clarity, outer conflict cannot be managed. Without spiritual alignment, no political strategy will last. We must return to this forgotten truth that the health of a nation is tied to the health of its people's hearts. Many today are looking for answers in headlines. They analyze military movements and quote statistics. But while the world chases information, the wise seek transformation. The wise understand that if the soul is broken, the system will be broken. If the heart is polluted, the home will be unstable. And if the spirit is disconnected from truth, no amount of strategy can sustain peace. This is not weakness, it is strength. It is not denial, it is depth. It is the understanding that silence is not absence, but preparation. That stillness is not laziness, but clarity. That the real battlefield is not only between nations, but within each of us, every day. If we want to respond wisely to the times we are living in, we must develop inner order. This means practicing forgiveness even when it hurts. It means speaking truth with love. It means refusing bitterness, rejecting division, and embracing humility. It means not letting the noise of the world drown out the whisper of the Spirit. It means choosing peace even when chaos surrounds you. When your heart is at peace, you can walk through storms without fear. When your soul is anchored, you can lead others without panic. When your mind is clear, you can discern what is true amidst 1,000 lies. Ezekiel's message is not just for scholars or theologians. It is for every person who desires to live awake, alive, and aligned. It is for those who sense that something is shifting and want to be prepared, not just physically, but spiritually. It is for those who know that the greatest victories are won not by force, but by faith, not by reaction, but by revelation, not by domination, but by transformation. The conflicts of this world will continue. But you can become a person of peace in the midst of it, a person of vision, of courage, of deep, unshakable strength. So when you see the signs of Ezekiel's prophecy approaching, do not be afraid, be aware. Do not run, reflect, do not panic, prepare internally, let your thoughts be guided by truth, your emotions be rooted in peace, your actions be led by love. The more the world shakes, the more you must be still. The more confusion grows, the more clarity you must carry, because outer conflict will always reflect inner disorder. But if you conquer the inner, the outer will never control you. That is the way forward. That is the way of wisdom. That is the way of those who are truly ready. Faith is not fearlessness. It is clarity in chaos. Many people misunderstand faith as the absence of fear, as if those who truly believe never tremble, never worry, never question. But this is not the faith we see in Scripture, nor is it the faith we are called to live. Faith does not mean the storm disappears. It means you walk through the storm with your eyes fixed on something greater. It means when everything around you seems uncertain, you still move forward, not because you are blind, but because you see clearly what others do not. Faith is not the denial of fear. It is the decision to live by truth even when fear knocks at your door. It is not about being loud and confident on the outside. It is about being anchored and steady on the inside. When Ezekiel spoke of the war that would come, when he saw visions of nations rising, destruction spreading, and judgment falling, he was not speaking as someone untouched by fear. He spoke as one who had already passed through suffering, exile, and the collapse of his homeland. He knew what chaos felt like. He understood what it meant to live in uncertain times, but through all of it, his vision remained clear. His voice remained steady, his message remained true. This is the essence of faith. Not that you feel strong, but that you remain aligned with God when everything else falls apart. Not that you are perfect, but that you trust the one who is. True faith is not proven in times of comfort, but in times of crisis. When the path is clear and the sun is shining, even the weakest can walk with confidence. But when the sky darkens and the ground shakes, only those with true faith can keep moving. Not because they are fearless, but because they see what is invisible. They trust what is eternal. They believe in what is unseen. The world may call it foolishness, but to those who walk in it, it is wisdom. It is life. It is power. When chaos surrounds you and you do not waver, that is faith. When the news is grim and your hope remains, that is faith. When others retreat and you step forward, that is faith. Many people today are drowning in fear, paralyzed by what they see happening in the world. The headlines scream danger, the predictions speak of collapse, the rumors spread like wildfire, and in the middle of all this, God calls his people not to be reckless, but to be clear, to see through the fog, to remember his word, to discern the times, not through panic, but through prayer. Faith does not ignore the reality of danger, but it filters that reality through the promises of God. It does not run from the truth, but it clings to the greater truth, the one that does not change. Heaven and earth may pass away, but his word remains. Faith is clarity because it aligns your heart with God's perspective. It lifts you above the noise and allows you to see from a higher place. You begin to see that history is not random, that chaos is not beyond control, that prophecy is not unfolding by accident. You begin to walk with a calmness that confuses the world. Not because you are blind to danger, but because you are rooted in destiny, because you know who holds the future, even when you don't know what tomorrow holds. This kind of clarity gives you peace when others are restless. It gives you purpose when others are lost. It gives you direction when others are wandering. Look at the stories throughout Scripture. Abraham followed God into the unknown, not because he had all the answers, but because he had clarity about who was leading him. Moses stood before Pharaoh, not because he was fearless, but because he was clear on his calling. Esther walked into the throne room, not because she was confident in herself, but because she was clear about the time she was born into. Jesus faced the cross not because he had no fear of pain, but because he had perfect clarity of purpose. Faith has always been about this clarity, this vision that keeps you steady, this trust that goes beyond logic, this fire that keeps you walking when everything says stop. In these days, as we see the signs described by Ezekiel and others beginning to unfold, we must ask ourselves, not whether we are afraid, but whether we are clear. Are we clear about who we serve? Are we clear about what we believe? Are we clear about where we are going? Are we clear about what we must do? Because fear is not the enemy of faith, confusion is. When you are confused, you hesitate, you compromise, you waver. But when you are clear, even if fear is present, it does not control you. You can feel the fear and still obey. You can hear the chaos and still speak peace. You can face the unknown and still move forward. This clarity must be cultivated. It does not come automatically. It grows through time with God. It deepens through prayer, through the Word, through silence, through obedience. It is shaped in the furnace of trials. It is tested in the moments when everything is shaking. But once you have it, it becomes your compass. You no longer need constant reassurance from the world. You are no longer dependent on the opinions of others. You are guided by truth, not by trends. You are anchored in conviction, not in comfort. And when the time comes to act, to stand, to speak, to serve, you are ready. Let us not mistake loud opinions for clarity. Let us not confuse popularity with purpose. Clarity is quiet, it is simple, it does not boast, but it does not bend, it does not panic, but it does not hide. It sees what others miss. It hears the whisper of God in the middle of the storm, and it says, "Here I am, send me." This is the kind of faith we need in this hour. Not the kind that shouts louder, but the kind that stands firmer. Not the kind that argues better, but the kind that loves deeper. Not the kind that waits for everything to be safe, but the kind that moves when God says move. Ezekiel was a man of such faith. His clarity came from seeing the hand of God even in judgment. His strength came from knowing that God's plan would not fail, even if everything else did, and that same clarity is available to us today, not because we are strong, but because God is, not because we see everything, but because we trust the one who does. So when fear comes, don't try to fight it with force. Face it with faith. Face it with clarity. Remind yourself of who you are and whose you are. Speak truth even when your voice shakes. Walk forward even when the road is uncertain. And when the world looks for answers, you will not just have words. You will have presence. You will be a light in the dark, a voice of calm in the storm, a vessel of hope in the chaos. Because faith is not the absence of fear, it is clarity in the chaos. It is vision when others are blind. It is purpose when others are lost. It is strength in the silence, and it is exactly what the world needs right now. Now is the time to act with wisdom, not react with panic. In moments of uncertainty, the most common instinct is to react. Reaction is quick, emotional, and often driven by fear. It demands immediate answers and fast solutions. It looks at danger and responds with anxiety. But wisdom does not react, it responds. Wisdom pauses, it observes, it listens before it speaks, considers before it moves, and waits before it judges. And this is the kind of mind that we must carry as the world grows louder and the times grow darker. The headlines may be shouting, the signs of prophecy may be intensifying, but those who are rooted in truth will not be swayed by panic. They will act with purpose, with strategy, and with a deep sense of calm. Panic clouds judgment. It rushes decisions. It feeds confusion and often leads people to destructive choices. We've seen throughout history that when people act in fear, they tend to follow the crowd, even when the crowd is heading in the wrong direction. Panic creates chaos. It magnifies small problems and turns them into uncontrollable storms, but wisdom sees beyond the moment. It takes the long view. It asks, what is the right thing to do, not just what feels urgent. It doesn't follow emotion. It follows truth. And in times like these, when we are watching prophetic signs unfold and hearing the whispers of Ezekiel's vision come alive in real-world events, we must be people who operate with that kind of wisdom. Wisdom is not passive. It does not sit in the corner while the world burns. It takes action, but it does so with discernment. Wisdom is bold, but not reckless. It speaks truth, but never loses compassion. It sees danger, but does not become consumed by it. The wise understand the times, but they are not consumed by the times. They do not let the fear of man outweigh the fear of God. They do not let the pressure of the moment erase the values they have built their lives upon. To act with wisdom means to be led by the Spirit, not pushed by the storm. It means your decisions are guided by principle, not panic. Ezekiel did not speak out of fear. He spoke out of obedience. His words were hard, but they were clear. His message was urgent, but it was rooted in hope. He was not alarmist, he was prophetic. And this is the difference we must understand. The world doesn't need more noise. It doesn't need more panic. It needs people who are clear, headed and grounded in truth. It needs voices that cut through the fog and bring perspective, and this can only come from those who choose wisdom over reaction. There is a deep strength in staying calm when others are losing control. That calmness doesn't come from pretending things are fine. It comes from knowing where your foundation lies. It comes from having spent time with God, from having stored up His Word in your heart, from knowing that He is not surprised by anything that is happening. Wisdom is built in the quiet place long before it is needed in the public place. It is formed in prayer, in reflection, in study, and when crisis comes, it rises to the surface. It leads you forward when everyone else is stuck. It gives you the ability to help others when they don't know where to turn. The difference between a wise person and a panicked person is not intelligence. It is preparation. Those who prepare their hearts in the days of peace will not be shaken in the days of war. Those who build their lives on rock will stand when the storm hits, and that storm may now be upon us. The signs are clear. Conflict is rising. Tensions are boiling. The warnings of the prophets are no longer distant. They are at our doorstep. But what will determine how we navigate this season is not how much we know about prophecy, but how we choose to live because of it. If we react with panic, we will miss opportunities to be salt and light. We will retreat when we are supposed to advance. We will argue when we are supposed to love. But if we act with wisdom, we will be a beacon for others. We will lead with strength. We will serve with courage. We will remain faithful, not frantic. This kind of wisdom is not self-generated, it is received. It comes from seeking God daily, not just in emergencies. It comes from being anchored in His presence, not tossed by every new report or rumor. It is quiet confidence, not loud certainty. It is inner strength, not external control. Wisdom also means knowing what to focus on. Panic scatters your energy. It makes you chase every headline, fear every possibility, and try to control what is beyond your reach. But wisdom simplifies. It helps you ask the right questions. What is God saying to me in this season? What is He asking me to do? Where is He asking me to be faithful? Who is He asking me to serve? When you live with these questions at the center, your life becomes focused. You stop reacting to every wave, and you start sailing with purpose. You are no longer a victim of the times. You are a vessel of truth in the midst of them. Now is not the time to run and hide. It is the time to rise and shine. Not with arrogance, but with authority, not with fear, but with faith, not with panic, but with wisdom. Now is the time to quiet the noise, to listen deeply, to obey quickly, to prepare, not just for what might happen, but for what God is already doing. The wise do not just survive seasons of shaking. They lead through them. They carry peace in the middle of conflict. They carry light in the middle of darkness. And they do this not because they are strong in themselves, but because they are connected to the one who never changes. Ezekiel's message is not just a warning. It is a call to rise, to live differently, to lead courageously, to think clearly. This is not the moment to be swept up in fear, but to be grounded in purpose. The world may fall apart, but God's people must remain whole. The world may grow darker, but God's light will shine brighter through those who act with wisdom. Wisdom will give you the words to say when others are silent. Wisdom will give you the steps to take when the path is unclear. Wisdom will keep your heart soft even when the world grows hard. And so, the question is not whether Ezekiel's war is coming. The question is whether we are ready. Not just physically or politically, but spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Are we cultivating the kind of wisdom that will carry us through? Are we choosing daily to quiet our panic and lean into God's peace? Are we living out our faith in a way that others can see, feel, and follow? Because in the end, wisdom is not about having the right answers. It's about becoming the right kind of person. A person who is rooted, ready, and radiant even when the world trembles. Now is the time, not tomorrow, not later, right now, to act with wisdom, to live with clarity, to walk in purpose, to shine with truth, because wisdom will not only save you from panic, it will prepare you to lead others through it. And that is what this moment requires, not more fear, not more reaction, but more wisdom, and you were born for such a time as this.